All right, let's get right into it. We're about to unpack a really fascinating and very, very public corporate showdown. It's between a real estate data giant and, believe it or not, some of its own powerful investors. This is a wild story about big money, huge risks, and some seriously sharp accusations being thrown around.
I mean, it really makes you wonder, right? What actually happens when the people who own a piece of your company are the same ones out there publicly trashing your strategy? This isn't some quiet behind the scenes disagreement. Nope. This one spilled right out into the open for everyone to see. And the stakes here? They are absolutely astronomical. We are talking about a $1 billion bet on the future of how you and I buy and sell homes. And it's a bet that has basically torn a hole between the company and some of its most influential owners. So let's break this down. What is this $1 billion bet all about? Well, it's a huge strategic move that one side sees as, totally visionary, while the other side sees it as a complete and utter disaster waiting to happen. Okay, so on one side, you've got CoStar Group. They're a giant in the real estate data world. They are pouring a massive amount of cash into their residential portal, homes.com, because they want to take on their rivals. And on the other side, you've got D.E. Shaw. They're a major activist hedge fund. Basically, that means they buy up shares in companies specifically to get a say in how they're run. And even though they own a piece of CoStar, they are publicly fighting this strategy tooth and nail. And things got heated fast. The whole conflict really exploded when the investors decided to go public, sending this open letter that just directly attacked CoStar's big plan. And listen, they did not pull any punches. D.E. Shaw straight up called the investment unprecedented and slapped the label of a high-risk, money-losing business on Homes.com. That is incredibly blunt language to hear from one of your own investors. So what do they want? Well, they argued the whole strategy was value destructive, basically just burning through cash. They also called out the board for being too deferential to the CEO, hinting that he had way too much unchecked power. And their bottom line demand was pretty simple. Ditch Homes.com. Just get rid of it. CoStar did not take that sitting down. Not for a second. They came out swinging, immediately defending their strategy and firing right back at their critics. And the speed of this whole thing is just wild. Okay, so on February 4th, the investors send their letter. The very next day, February 5th, CoStar is already out with a public rebuttal. Then, just about a month later, they escalate the whole thing dramatically. So CoStar's defense was basically the exact opposite of D.E. Shaw's argument. They claimed that abandoning Homes.com, the very thing the investors were demanding, is what would actually lead to certain and significant value destruction. So get this, we have two sides claiming the same action will lead to the exact opposite result. It's a total standoff. And this is where the story takes a huge turn. CoStar stops just playing defense and goes on the attack, and they start questioning the true motives of the very investors who were criticizing them in the first place. All of a sudden, CoStar starts suggesting that maybe this isn't just a simple disagreement over business strategy. They start to hint that maybe, just maybe, there's a hidden agenda behind all these public attacks. And this quote right here, it pretty much sums up their new approach. In a public statement, CoStar said, "If D.E. Shaw is worried about transparency, it should start with itself." Oof, that is a direct accusation of hypocrisy, a real shot across the bow. So what was the thinking behind that quote? Well, CoStar dropped an absolute bombshell. They claimed that D.E. Shaw has major investments in CoStar's competitors. The implication here is crystal clear. If D.E. Shaw can force CoStar to kill Homes.com, their other investments would make a lot of money. This raises a huge, massive potential conflict of interest. So with accusations of hidden agendas and conflicts of interest now out in the open, the fight was already getting ugly. But then, CoStar decided to raise the stakes even higher, hinting that this whole war of words could very soon end up in a courtroom. Now, to really get how serious this next move is, let's just be clear on what defamation actually is. It's when you make a false statement about someone that's presented as a fact, and it damages their reputation. It is a very, very serious legal charge to throw around. And this is CoStar's latest move. In their most recent statement, they announced they've hired an outside law firm. And what does this firm specialize in? I'm quoting here, complex defamation matters and high-profile reputational attacks. Now, they didn't actually file a lawsuit, but the message, it's unmistakable. And that brings us to the big, lingering question in this whole affair. Is CoStar just preparing a necessary legal defense against what they see as damaging false claims? Or is hiring a team of high-powered defamation lawyers a calculated warning shot, designed specifically to intimidate and silence their critics? The answer to that is probably going to decide the future of this billion-dollar bet.